Hey, welcome back to this series that I'm doing intentionally to go back through the What on Earth is Happening podcast that was created by Mark Passio. And I think it's one of the most important bodies of work that someone can avail themselves with regards to what's happening on Earth. Mark Passio does an amazing job. A lot of folks have issues with his, I guess, temperament. I feel like he gets a little angry, and I don't personally have a problem with that, but I know some feel it's offensive because he's pretty intense. This episode, What on Earth is Happening, it's episode number 5, is one of my, I would say, my top 10 of the 200 plus. I'm on 80, but I go throughout different ones. I've been looking at the ones on tarot, and those are really interesting. But this episode specifically is one of my favorites. And so I will revisit this, and I'm so glad I have had the opportunity to revisit it and then hopefully have the discussion with my son. It might not happen live, but it's an important one. It's an important topic. The key that he's talking about, there's two pieces, but the speech that he gave at the Fed rally, and then he read the speech on this episode, is phenomenal. And I think the key takeaways, he talks about the 4 R's, and I think the first piece that we all have to understand, and the R is recognize. Most, if you just look around in our own families, in our communities, in our businesses, in the world, we're not recognizing how much mind control we have been under. And that is really, that's the first key, is to recognize that there's something to learn, that there is a body of knowledge that you can learn. And one of the things that I did not do is go and learn, because I was essentially, so mind control is an interesting thing. There's two philosophies that I have about this. First, there's a concept that no one outside of you can control you. Well, we know that's not true. And especially we know that from the time you're born, and even in the womb till 7 years old, you are your subconscious is open, and you are sucking in everything. You're basically being programmed, right? Not basically, you're being programmed with all of this input. And there's no way to decipher or be able to recognize, yeah, that's nonsense. Yeah, that doesn't make sense in that early stage. So that is why mothers and fathers have to be so vigilant. And that's why my most important role and duty on this planet is to be a strong mother to my sons. And then also to grow myself up, to raise myself up, because my early programming was subpar. That's no blame on anyone. The bottom line is, there are concerted efforts out there that are specifically trying to control our thoughts, trying to control what we think about, and as a result, what we do, because usually what you're thinking about is going to impact what action you take or not take. So this then brings me to my own personal experience with a whole body of knowledge that's fundamental piece was around mind control. And it was so booby-trapped that in its whole structure is, if you were to even think outside of that dogma, then you were unethical and bad, and you would be punished and declared some such and such such. That's massive mind control. And anyone who starts to recognize that goes through a significant, not so much a transformation, but a significant, it's the phrase that, I don't know, I don't even know what the phrase "come to Jesus" means, but I guess it's like show up and fully like bare your soul. When someone's going through and confronting that old mind control, and they're in fear, it's just going to cause more confusion. So in episodes 3 and 4, Mark talks a lot about the absence of love, and in that darkness, if you have the absence of love and you're in fear, confusion is the internal state and control is the external state. The two things that a lot of my early life was held in place by was confusion and control. External control, internal confusion, and then internal control, trying to figure it all out. I don't think it has to be that hard. I don't think any of this has to be as hard as we make it. But when I say that, you have to have a few tools to understand. And I had so many tools that I was even more confused. And I think sometimes we just have to shut it all down, shut it all off, reboot completely, and just get freaking quiet. Just unplug completely, get rid of everything, get rid of all the excess. To me, that has been, I'm not saying that everyone needs to do that, but for me, that is what I needed to do, because all of my belongings were part of my control and confusion. Because every book I bought was in order to solve the confusion and to solve that control that I had, based on not being able to recognize that I was under mind control, and that every action was me slogging away trying to reverse the mind control that was happening. So also on episode 5, again, it is so good and worth just siphoning and just like really sitting with it and taking notes and deciding, what action can you actually act on and take into yourself, and maybe you could even look at what do you agree, what do you disagree with, things like that. The things, one of the R's was to refuse to be like the evil. I don't think he says evil, but that's kind of my word. I like to, because it's like, oh, that's evil. Well, refuse to be like that confused soul who is in fear and who is operating at a level of complete, evilness, trying to control. And as I review this and go back through these with the new knowledge, every time Mark puts a podcast or on the podcasts of the, if you go back to the original ones on his website specifically, not on YouTube, on his website, he has the slides, he has the resources. And so if you start to follow some of the resources, like for example, the Hermetic Principles, I had never read the Kybalion, and that's all about the 7 Hermetic Principles. And that, while I understand it's a primer, it is so important. And that is why I love these episodes, because that's why I love What on Earth is Happening on the website, whatonearthishappening.com specifically, because all of those resources are there and they're referenced and you can go deeper. It is not a podcast to speed through and to rush through. I wouldn't try to just get it over with or get it done. That's what I did originally, and it was too much. There was too much stuff that you can't process it. So build yourself a way to actually get the data and then go in and process it, think with it, look at it, try it out, take it out into the world and see, notice things. I didn't understand about the Fed at all. As a result of listening to that podcast, we got Tragedy and Hope. We got Creature from Jekyll Island. That's a lot of meat. That is a lot of stuff to chew and process and digest. It is so liberating to understand what money really is, what this currency is. And when he talks about specifically how we're controlled by this, and money is a mind control, Hollywood and all of these, you can go on to that. Once you understand this, the wake up is, and it can be painful. For me, it was painful. I'm a year into this and going back to 5 and trying to adjust how I do everything now. Instead of siphoning everything in, it's now, okay, let me look at this. Is this useful? Right? I don't think even a year from now, 10 years from now, we're not going to be in the same place. And why would we want to be? We can't be. The whole entire monetary system is a complete lie. It's a complete made up fabrication. Someone is literally putting buttons on a number. It is literally all made up, and we're all stressing over it. We are all fearful and feeling out of control and thinking it's money. And when there's literally people printing pieces of paper or putting zeros in an account, it is all a freaking complete scam, lie. And when you understand that and you step back and you go take a walk in nature and you literally freaking unplug from the insanity, you start to recognize the truth. And at first it is super painful. But if you refuse to be like them, you come back to yourself, and the only answers are going to ultimately come from within. That's a hard one too, because I always sought answers outside of me. Now, when I say the answers come from within, here's the thing. We also have to avail ourselves, because if you know that from the time you were born until, well, even today, whatever age you are, but early on, we have such massive, deep programming that went on. And I can't even imagine the children today who are being bombarded with digital devices and all these pictures and nonsense and insanity that's going straight into their subconscious. And so that's going to be the program. What are they going to be like in 20 years? What are they going to be like in it's so deeply sad. And I pray that every mother and father and anyone who has the can influence a 0 to 7-year-old or anyone. Let's start with the little ones, the littles. Get the freaking digital devices away from them. Make sure there's no TV on in your home. In fact, no computers, no nonsense. You're just pouring into them a bunch of insanity, and it's rough. Okay, so I wanted to commit to this coming live every Friday at 11, even though my older son could not make it today because he's got another engagement. Episode 5, I might just talk about it again next week, but this one's an important one. So I would take the time to fully listen to it. There's a gentleman who's transcribing the podcast now, so you can even read that. His name's Dennis. You can subscribe to his Substack. It's a great one. It's like a lot of intense thinking as well. But as I say this, there is so much information out there. You can avail yourself and search and learn, but do it from a really healthy place where when you are searching, you are clear that this is data and you're not sucking it in or siphoning it in or under the mind control. You are actually looking at it critically. You are looking at it. You are just kind of like, if you don't have someone to discuss it with, you can kind of, sometimes I don't really talk it out loud, but what I will do is I'll go walk and kind of process through things. And I have this vision, and I learned this from, can't remember his name. It was at Edmondson's, when it was the 20-mile march, right? And it's the story of the one guy, I think it's Scott, and then the other one, I want to say Edmondson's. So they go to the South Pole, and they had a specific strategy that they were going to do. I think you have to have a strategy to get to where you're going. So Scott, we know, didn't make it. Edmondson, he and his crew made it. And it was this 1,400 mile there and back. And his strategy was the 20 miles a day, no matter what, no matter the weather. And I think for me, that is a very useful concept in that it's 20 miles a day, no matter, right? And so my 20 miles is I'm taking a body of information and studying it for 20 minutes. That's about all. Sometimes I'll stay longer, like with one of Mark's podcasts, because there's a few other things that it allows me to process it. But let's say, for example, like when I was reading Creature from Jekyll Island, it was so intense, and there were a lot of words that I needed to look up and understand. And then when I got into the Black's Law Dictionary and started understanding that words are something else, it was just like, whoa. So I gave myself 20 minutes every single day to really focus on recognizing and assimilating knowledge, true knowledge. And then I would take time to then go process it. And usually that's looking like a walk, or lately it's been pulling weeds and just staying present with the thoughts that are coming up and seeing what old thoughts are coming up that are hitting up against that. Like I'll have discussions with my son about money, and that's a hard one, because money is like, people are money hungry, and youth want money, and they're, so it's very interesting. So going back to the 20-mile march, that concept, that is what I use for myself. I definitely talk to my clients about it, but that's such a useful tool. I think with anything, with habits, whatever, commit to something that you're going to commit to every single day. Do it in a way that is based on the Trivium method. So what's the Trivium method? It's you get information, you get data, you are able to recognize that it is information and it's not immediately factual. You want to always take in any information, be able to decipher whether or not this is true. I think the early childhood programming made it so that we are more susceptible to just listen to authority, listen to and be order followers. So that's the part of the mind control that's like this stuck program that's running, that we're all like, okay, the TV's on, listen to it. Oh, if something's on in the background, it's going into the subconscious. We don't know. So we have to know. So we have to be present and recognize and get the information, and then do the processing to decide. And then I wish I had those notes. I should have taken better notes, but I'm going to leave it at that. It looks like there's one person watching, and I'm curious as to who that is, and if you want to make a comment. So I'm going to wrap up. Episode 5 is highly valuable. Take the time to listen to it. Refuse to be like them. Refuse to be like the order followers and those that are pulling the strings, they are confused. They're living that out. You don't need to be that way. You don't need to live confused. Follow the truth with a capital T. Every day, connect yourself to love, your internal love. And that's how we're going to move forward to freedom. And actually, you can have freedom in this moment. Really, I know this. I think that that's the one thing that some folks disagree with Mark in his anger, and so they project, I think, and presume that he is not free. But I think anyone who's doing this work, you create a sacred boundary where you go into a space of love and you plug into that infinite love and truth with the capital T, and that's where freedom is, and no one can take that from you. No one can take that connection from you. They try really hard, right? They try to confuse you, but once you have that, once you've tapped into that, it requires nothing of you. Just to go be in nature, just to go be utterly silent, be present to your breath, and then let this stuff go, because it's an illusion. Oh my gosh. We don't want to keep projecting this illusion. Okay. See you next week. Thanks for being here.